Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Battle Spirits Saga set review going on to Yellow for False Gods. And today we also got some really exciting news that it's not enough news, so it shouldn't get its own video, so I'm just going to mention up here right up front. We got information on set 4, and it is amazing. One of the key feedbacks from a lot of local game stores and a lot of the community, if you go back to those early surveys, were heard and met and responded to by Bandai, and that we're going to have a lot more of the collector side going into set 4, and obviously just really excited for double symbols, so it's going to help, speed up the game a little bit and get away from those pesky overtime rules that we all know and love so much, and just all around looks like to be an absolutely amazing set. So I got to give a huge shout out to Bandai for listening to the community and clearly doing what it takes to make these sets better, and it gives me a lot of hope going in to future sets and future organized play and all that good stuff, because Bandai clearly cares about this game a lot and is actively listening to the community. So obviously really good things to come, and more on that. And once we get more information, I'll probably do a more proper video, but as it is, that's the information right now that we have. So with that out of the way, let's get into Yellow. So Yellow is interesting in that we got two more supports for 2-drops, and Luster is kind of like the key package they want to have, and like our Fallen Angel or Void Lord really goes into Luster as well. And then there are some sub-themes in Yellow as well with Birdfolk and some of the other cards. It's like, okay, it's nice that this is a thing, or like how Blessed is technically a subset of Yellow or a sub-theme of Yellow, but doesn't really have enough to stand on its own per se. So I really like that we are getting, again, these kind of more horizontal upgrades kind of across the board for all these different archetypes and for, deck strategies in set 1 that are going to get improved upon for set 2. That's all great. But I would have loved to see the other half, for example, of Birdfolk in this set, which we'll talk about later, because obviously it's really good for the 2-drop deck. I think Bandai nailed it. Is it good enough to make 2-drop playable? I mean, we'll see, but I think this is exactly the support that they wanted. But the Birdfolk side of it is a sub-theme, and a sub-theme that's not explored as much. However, it will likely be explored more in set 3, much like Bless got a couple extra cards in this set, both in the Spirits and the Nexus department. So yeah, there's always going to be, I guess, the main theme and sub-theme for each color going forward. But without further ado, let's cover the vanillas really quick. So again, vanillas across the board, they're vanillas, not much to say about them. I do like the Great Shield Angel. I will actually give this one a special call out because it's a 3-cost 3 reduction that does hit 4K for 2. That's just a really good stat line to hit. It's also really important for Clavis, which we're going to talk about in the Luster package to get back your 3-cost spells. But there's some other 3-drops that we already want to be playing, so I'm not even sure if this makes the cut, but at least stat line, right? Yellow is always going to be one of the weakest colors, BP-wise, because they're known for their battle tricks and other magics that they have to kind of support them. But, Great Shield Angel being able to get up to a 4K to dodge Burning Force, which may see a little bit less play in set 2, the way things are looking, could be really nice anyways, because 4K is just a good threshold. So the rest of these, right, we have some Fabled Beasts. Maybe that goes in the Fabled Beast. I'd have to go side by side, compare all the BPs again. But hopefully, by the time we get to set 3, vanillas will be rotated out. So let's get right into it with 8-cost Heavenly Gate Guardian Clavis. 8-cost 3 reduction. This card is a house for Luster. Now, again, yes, Luster does remain to be seen and where it's going to end up in the meta overall, but this card does exactly what you need out of Luster, right? We needed something to buy back spells in case our Luster Spirit gets answered, and Clavis gives you a lot of flexibility because when summoned, select one of your spirits, return all yellow magic cards from your trash to your hand of the same cost. So Michaela is going to cost 7, so right, that's something we want to be playing already. It gets back Exhaust Nexus, which is one of our key spells. A lot of your enablers or, Hippocampo, if you play Marigold, those are 3 costs, so now you're getting back your Angelic Pressures. Right, there's a lot of other stuff that we want to be doing with this, so I think it's when summoned is just fine. And it's really nice is that it goes up to a 10K as well, which is a really high BP for yellow spirits, which is nice to see. So when the spirit is blocked, treat the blocking spirit as a level 1 during battle. So it's always going to smash through, right? If you set this up to a 10K, no matter what your opponent has, if they have to drop it all the way down to level 1, it's probably dying. So it does help satisfy that more aggressive nature of what you want to be doing with this card. Now, yes, Volcanic Break, I think, is going to be the next major check for a lot of decks in the format because we are going to see the rise of big red, right? I think we will see more mid-range red strategies come online. So I think 6K is more the BP to worry about than 3000 BP in set 2 meta. So Clavis going to 7K is great to see. It does cost 3 cores, but hopefully by that stage of the game, you've gotten enough Blessed units, to connect, or you have other strategies online. Maybe your Blessed Cathedral's got value, right? The cores shouldn't be a problem that late in the game, but getting to see 7K for 3 is really, really important for this card, I believe. Moving into our Void Lord, the 10 cost 6 reduction Fallen Angel. One, love the artwork, love the alt art. I don't know which I'm honestly going to pick because I wish this artwork would have gotten the full art treatment. It is just so good. I love it so much. When summoned, all non-Void Lord spirits are treated as level 1 during this turn. So this is important because it is going to be stuff for your own board as well. So be very careful on your sequencing, right? It just says all non-Void Lord spirits, so yours and your opponents. But this does line up very well. Yes, it does cost 6, but it does line up very well for things like Exhaust Nexus. So again, this does play into what Luster wants to be doing. And also, it's really important that it's just a massive, massive body your opponent's going to have a problem dealing with. So a lot of times in Luster, right, it's either our BP is too low and they just block it in suppression or whatever, you lose it that way, or they bounce it or volcanic break it, right, and remove it before the end of combat triggers to get all your Lusters back. So at least with this card, we're able to protect it from the BP side of things. Like if you pump this up to a 15K plus you're having yellow, so like you have pressures and stuff, like this guy is going to, or this being is going to crack through for damage and you're going to get your Luster effects back. So I really like this. It's probably going to be like a 1 or a 2 of, right? Because in the grander scheme of things, like Shin just more actively does what you want it to be doing. And as of at least right now, there's no 10 costs we care to get back. So the Clavis isn't doing anything with this. But, generally speaking, with how these cards are costed, you should be able to play this, and then because you have Pentons and other things, get to resolve a couple Exhaust Nexus and board wipe your opponent. I think that is going to be incredibly, incredibly strong. How is Yellow surviving to that point? I have no idea yet. We got to do some brewing, but I think this card will be very important for how it wants to line up in the meta and bring the Luster package overall online. Again, not necessarily because of its level, 6 cores, level 3, but because that when summoned is going to be very, very strong. Moving on from there, we have Mace Angel, 6 cost 2 reduction. It has Luster at all 3, which is nice. It does have Luster, but again, we're playing Shin. We have other spirits we care about. I just don't think this one is anything that we'd want to see in the Luster deck. So really nothing to write home about on this one. I do like seeing more, BSS exclusive Angels. Huge shout out to that. I do really like the artwork overall, but again, there's probably other Luster spirits that we want to be using at our top end, like Shin. I think Shin is just like the check mark, right, or the barrier for every other Luster spirit going forward, because getting 2 attacks off a single spirit is just very, very good, and her BP thresholds are just fine, especially with some of the new support that we got in this set. Now, probably what I hope is the GOAT of this set, because I think this is just such a fun build around in play card, but 5 cost Arcana King Charles with 3 cost reduction. So when summoned, real top card of your deck, if it is a spirit card with the same cost as any of your spirits, summon it without paying its cost. Otherwise, discard it. So, a couple things. One, yes, it's non-summon. The whole thing, add your disclaimer about Boo playing when summons here, right? Like, set 2 is when summon the deck, or when summon the set. Everything has a when summon now. They're just going to happen. But it is a 4K 2 for 2, which is important. But 2 things. Again, one, you get to play it for free, as long as it matches a spirit on your field. So, again, this could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, right? Whatever you have for on your board, you can now build your deck in a way. It's like, oh, am I all 5 drops? Am I 3, 4, and 5 drops, right? Just get the maximum value out of this card. And we're going to see other enablers later that I think it's just going to be a really, really fun, kind of swarm the field style of yellow deck that will, likely be better than the 2 cost style of deck, which, fits a similar kind of speed and what you want to be doing. But I really just like this card because also it does not say yellow. It just says spirit. So now it also opens up the option, like we've seen with Reanimate, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We've seen other cards that really want us to combine and have these dual color kind of strategies that I have no idea where these are going to end up, splashability wise and all that stuff. But other lander at least all goes together. But I'm really excited to see how people brew with this one. And then also importantly for the level 2 and level 3, all of your yellow spirits gain the other lander spirit type, which is really important for the other cards that we're going to be talking about. So this card does 2 things, right? It's a combo enabler for its level 2 and level 3, and just a good value engine for its level 1, or I guess level 1, 2, and 3 when summoned effects. So I am super excited for this card. I think it's going to be a very, very fun one to build with. Obviously, we have Alice from set 1 that wants to play into this strategy as well. shocker, other lander, right? Because she does want to have a lot of spirits on the board, which, you know, can be difficult depending on the yellow deck style of deck you're doing. But now we have the other lander cards coming together for us in this set, which helps build into her strategy. So we could just see Alice the deck kind of, you know, stand alone on its end. But I really do like this card. I think it's very, very exciting for what we have from a building capability. Moving on from there, the Light Emperor Luminaire. It is an other lander. It is a 6 cost, so it helps you find Alice. So that is very, very important. Otherwise, probably not as excited for this, right? 6 cost to reduction when summoned. Select one of your spirits. It gains Blessed during this turn. So, you know, getting more Blessed is always great. It's what yellow wants. I think it's going to be a key strategy on how yellow survives during set 2. So that's nice. And then, of course, while this spirit attacks, it's going to gain Blessed at level 3 for 4 cores. Is a little bit expensive. But what's good to know about this is that it is an 8K, which, again, BP thresholds are kind of awkward in yellow. Yes, it is a 6 cost, but it does make our things like angelic pressure and whatnot look better, that it's really going to make your opponent second guess what they're blocking with. So really cool card that in theory, the way this lines up is now that you're getting 2 blessed triggers in a turn out of nowhere, because you can play it, give something blessed, it's going to have blessed itself and give you that crackback that you really need. So I think it is, again, a little expensive, but it is a 6 cost and it plays into the other lander strategy. So like imagine getting to rip this while you have Alice on board, and then now Alice has blessed as well, and you got to play this guy for free. Like, I really like it. I think there's going to be something there. But I think, you know, our 6 drops might end up getting a little bit competitive once we look at the fuller picture, but, you know, it's an other lander, so we got to give some love to that as well. Continuing on, you can see that they all have different costs other than Anne, because she matches the king. So Arcana Princess Anne, when summoned during this turn, when one of your other lander's spirits is destroyed by your opponent, reduce one of them by one of your opponent's spirits by 1,000. And it also has luster, which is cool, but it's only a 5 for 3. So what's neat about this is it gives us the flexibility when combined with King Charles that all of our yellow spirits are now threatening this 1,000 BP reduction. And we're, of course, trying to get a value engine going off of like Blessed Cathedral. So it can make blocking really, really bad for your opponent. Where the rest of this other lander kind of archetype build goes remains to be seen, because now there is this like sub theme of wanting to make sure you're only playing yellow spirits to get the absolute max value out of it, where King Charles, you know, has the ability to kind of dip into other colors if you really wanted to. But I'm excited. It is a 5 cost 4 reduction, so that is huge. Like I think that's not to be missed, that it is something that we can play out pretty easily, and it can work quite well with King Charles, again, because we want to have you know, multiple spirits on the board of different costs. It being a 5 is the same as King, but it allows us then to, if we flip Alice, now we have Anne that we paid 1 for. King was on the board previously, right? It helps build up your board quite easy, where like Arcana Knight Hex, for example, our 4 cost of choice most likely will end up being, right? That's also now drawing us a card. So we have this like card knight blessed style of deck that's coming online that, you know, I would still call it a sub-theme of set 2. Like, it's not luster, it's not 2 cost, but it's clearly there. So I'm very excited to see what other lander cards we get in set 3. I think it's like a fun build right now. I think it's not going to be able to kind of cross that competitive threshold, but it could be really, really fun. And honestly, that's what I'm looking forward to with this set. And then we have Arcana Joker. So again, these are all 5 costs, so they all line up very well with the king and something you want to be playing anyways. So this one, when summoned, the spirit cannot be blocked this turn. And then notably, the second part, select one of your other lander spirits, activate one of its when summoned effects with this spirit. So this is when he attacks, right? So this is really cool that now we're able to look at the greater picture of what other yellow spirits on summons do we have, because remember, with the king, with the Joker, and with any other yellow spirit, you can activate whatever yellow on summon that you want, right? So there is a case where, you know, we go way over the top and dream the absolute biggest, right? And you can combo it with the Void Lord. Yes, obviously then your own stuff gets weaker, so you don't want to do that, but like that's just the flexibility that it has, right? We could have Clavis, we could have Michaela, we could have, you know, anything from Prince Penton. There's a lot of flexibility that this opens, and the fact that the turn you summon it, it is going to attack uncontested, right, allows you to get the most value out of that trigger and then threaten to do it again if you follow up with another card. So I think this is one that is going to be like a, you know, I really want to play with this because we know how strong unblockable spirits can be. And again, in some matchups, you just need to deal 5. And if they don't have an answer for it, they're just dead. So I really, really like Joker. And this is like, if there's a card and it's not, you know, King Charles, which by the way, I think it's absolutely King Charles. But if there's a card that makes me really excited to try out some of the, you know, other decks in yellow, it's absolutely going to be Arcana Joker, because I think there's just a lot of really cool deck building things you can do with this card. Moving into our 4 cost for the other land, Arcana Beast Queen. When summoned, select one of your opponent's spirits, reduce its BP by 2,000 during this turn. So again, this is where it's like kind of cool. It's a 4 cost, so it does give us some more variety. It can reduce something's BP by 2,000. If you combine it with Joker, right, you can reduce something by 2,000 when he attacks again. Like, there's all those kind of like cool things that you can do with it, and like maybe that's good enough for a kill spell. So now Queen becomes like an onboard, like you have to deal with this eventually. But she only goes up to 4K at 3 cores. I really wish this one was a 2 for 4. Maybe that would have been too good, just to like dodge a little bit of the other removal options we have, but I would have liked to see that little bit of a boost. And then also, if we're playing the Blessed sub package in this as well to help stabilize a little bit, I think you actually want to play Arcana Knight Hex over this majority of the time anyways, because we are going to have a Blessed package in it as well. So I'm curious to see which way this goes. Like, if we see a lot of like the ant tokens and we see a lot of like the go wide strategies, like Arcana Beast Queen can be just fine because 2,000 sometimes all you need to shrink something by to kill it. And then you have this like repeatable drowsy fumes your opponent has to play around, which can be quite problematic. But ultimately, I think we just want to be drawing the card and have the higher BP threshold. But again, we are going to need some number of 4-cost stuff in the deck anyways with King Charles, that you're probably playing some number of this just because it's another 4-drop. Moving into the one that breaks my heart. Oh, Air Brigade Captain Rafael. So this one is insane. Now, again, let's just bear with me for a quick second. Just pretend, red is not a thing. Red can't hurt you. It's not a color in Battle Spirits. Nobody cares about red. It's not a thing. Just hold on. Please work with me. This card is absolutely nuts. Like, this is insane for 2-drop the deck. It is way better than what we had in set 1. Like, this card does everything that we want it to do, right? So when the spirit attacks, select a card that costs 2 from your trash to return to your hand. I like missed that the first several times. That can get back Drowsy Fumes. That can get back any cost 2 thing that you want, right? It could be spells from other colors. Like, it is just a flat 2-cost card recursion, which obviously things like Prince Penton is probably what we're going to want anyway, so we can rebuild our board, get more 2-cost stuff, and do all that stuff. So that's great. It's something when it attacks, it's immediately going to replace itself and such that it gives us another card and helps us refill a strategy from that point. And then, again, it only has 4,000 BP, but we'll talk about that in just a second. When the spirit attacks, if you have 4 or more other level 1 spirits, like 2 of your opponent's spirits reduce their BP by 3,000. Now look, this is where I say that is a very rough threshold to hit unless you're playing 2-cost, and then it's fine. Obviously, this feels really bad into other yellow decks, so that's like the huge other disclaimer I gotta say. Like, let's pretend Exhaust Nexus doesn't have it either. But if you know how the matchup goes against other decks, it is really easy to swarm and gum up the board with these level 1s, that you can now have a double angelic pressure every single turn when this attacks. That's going to mess up a lot of people. Now, yes, it does have to select 2 different ones. You can't like stack it because that obviously be too good. But this does also help clear the way so that this can keep attacking, because in theory, when it's at 4 cores at 8K, now we're going into 11K BP comparisons, unless they have armor yellow or something, right? So I am a huge fan of this card for what it wants to be doing, even if it is a little restricting, which I think will hold it back. But again, there are some matchups where getting 4 of those on the board is not a problem at all. And then during either attack step, when a core is placed into your reserve, select one of your opponent's spirits, treat it as level 1 during your turn. So this is really important because it's not only when stuff dies, but it's when you lose a life. So now you're forcing your opponent to attack differently because you just take that first point of damage. You're like, all right, I have, the ability to control the board now. Say, okay, whichever you attack first, fine, I won't block it. Or maybe I block it because I have Blessed Cathedral, right? Even better. I'm going to say, hey, I want value off this. Please feel free to attack me. I'll sacrifice what I have. Or it's you lose a life, core goes in reserve, say, okay, that other key threat you wanted to attack with, great. It's now level 1 until end of turn, and now suddenly my other units can block it freely. So I think this one's going to be really interesting to see where it lines up, because then it also wants you to have different attack patterns, right? Because you want to swing with something low first if they block it, then its core goes back to reserve. You shrink something on their board that then becomes level 1, then you attack with Rafael to kill it because it's going to be at 3,000 or less. right? So now it really creates this very interesting combat phase between the battle tricks of yellow, Blessed Cathedral value, the captain wanting to use angelic pressure turn after turn. I really think this is going to be a fun, like, combat focused deck that the game like really needed outside of, I guess, just red, right? To make the combat flow a bit differently. Now, again, let's go back to reality. I think it does lack a little bit with red being as good as it is. Maybe red gets knocked down a peg and Volcanic Break isn't absolutely everywhere, or Burning Force to kill 2 of our guys. When we want to use this ability where they can just, yes, we get to attack with it first, and if we meet the condition, we get the trigger. But on the follow-up turn, they could very easily, like, Volcanic or Burning Force 2 guys, they die, and then we might not have 2 guys if they kill it outside of main phase, meaning we don't get Blessed Cathedral triggers, which means we're very sad. So there are definitely some limitations to it. I think that this card can be absolutely insane for what it wants to be doing, and I'm really excited to see what Birdfolk we get in following sets to hopefully expand on this theme more and bring out more of the sub-theme, or the sub-theme of the set being Birdfolk, because the Nexus and some of the other cards we got are really cool. But again, this is strictly for 2-cost aggro right now and not any of the other Birdfolk stuff that we got. So its placement does feel a little bit weird, but for 2 costs, it's fine. This is exactly the card why it's, kind of a little questionable. 5 cost 3 reduction, the Scout Crocodile Birdfolk. So when destroyed by an opponent, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Add 1 Birdfolk Spirit card to revealed to your hand and discard the remaining. That doesn't matter in this set. We don't have enough Birdfolk, so that just really feels bad. But then what's also interesting is the other effect. During either attack step, all level 1 Nexus lose their effects and cannot regain them. Why is yellow getting so much blue hate in set 1 and set 2? What is going on? Bondi, what is in set 3 that you are so scared about that you're giving us all this Nexus hate before it matters? And I get it. Yellow is supposed to be the one that beats up on blue. That is like the natural enemy to it. But why now? Why do we have this now? Why do we have Spear Angel? Why do we have this Scout, right? This is one of those things that I can appreciate them trying to lay the foundation for a future set and wanting to balance it out. But, like, this shouldn't have been a Birdfolk. It shouldn't have had the first effect that it had. The turning off Nexus, yes, does matter. To be fair, in set 2, there are reasons why this could matter, but there's not enough of the set to support it that it really begs a question of why. So I know by the time set 3 comes around, we're going to be like celebrating and saying, thank God this card exists and all that stuff. But like, I don't see this seeing any play whatsoever in set 2. And I could be wrong, but it's just nothing exciting or to write home about at the end of the day. So we'll see. I like this for anti-blue in set 3, but for set 2, I think it falls a little flat. On the other side of it, really excited for Air Sniper Breeze, 2 cost 1 reduction Birdfolk. During the opponent's turn, all of your yellow spirits that cost 4 or more cannot have their cores removed by your opponent's effect. So this is a nice blanket effect that we get to run in like the Fabled Beast package, and we get to protect things like our Dual Eagle and bigger threats, and it can come back off Ervata, so then it's even like more difficult for your opponent to deal with, right? So like, this is just a really fun card to include. So again, don't care that it's a Birdfolk. It's nice that it's a 2-drop. But it's really just like a yellow mid-range and or control style thing that like protects your stuff. So really cool card. Nothing bad to say about it, right? Other than it has like the same stat line as Fula. So spoiler, angelic pressure is still going to kill it. But I think sideboard slots are about to get way more competitive. So I wouldn't be surprised if, angelic pressure starts to fall off out of the purple decks. But love this card. Think it's going to be super important. Crocodile. Love this dude. I love his art. 4 cost 2 reduction. It's a Fabled Beast. It's just, a auto include for what we have. You can give it Bless when it has a Soul Core on it. Obviously, because it requires your Soul Core, you might not want to run 4 of these because it can get awkward about where your Soul Core is going into the matchup. But and it's also its BP threshold's a little bit lower. I guess I should add that disclaimer, right? One of the best things about Hippocampo is that it goes up to a 4K. Crocodile, unfortunately, only gets up to a 5K with 4 cores. So it's more expensive to play. It's more expensive to hit that, magical number threshold, but it still has Blessed, and we have other cards like Dual Eagle that care about cards having Blessed. So that's another reason for only playing 3 of these, because you can't give multiple of them Blessed, where Dual Eagle wants them to attack for game. So there's some stuff there, but I think overall Crocodile is just going to be an easy auto include, swap out some of the vanillas that we were playing otherwise for Fabled Beast. Nothing to like really write home about, but I'm excited that we got a very clear upgrade for the deck, and it is a good card for what it does. So just all around solid. Not the most exciting thing, but hey, he's a cute. I love his artwork. He's just an absolutely cutie, and he gains Blessed. Then going to our 3-cost 1 reduction, we have Princess Hachi Kazuki, I believe is how you pronounce that. So it has Luster at level 3, 4,000. So again, Luster in general, I think has this problem that your early Lusters are just not good enough. So this is like more of a blanket statement that I'm going to make. And then at your top end, you have Shin, which is really hard to beat out. And that's kind of where it's at. So I'd love to be proven wrong. I'm definitely going to test this. I think 4 cores is just way too much for what you want to be doing. But it is a 4K, which means plus 8 angelic pressure. You're now hitting very, very important BP thresholds. So that could be nice. But I would say, like, if we're going down this route, I would rather just have, like, Flying Arc back in the deck and just running, like, Caladrius even, right? Because then we can at least bring it back off Eravata if we really need to, and things of that nature. So curious to see where, like, the small Luster units line up. But ultimately, I think this one's going to be a skip because we just want to have the Luster on the top end and focus more on, like, the how do we get to Michaela and stuff, Michaela and Shin and Clavis side of it versus let's try to do this early game Luster value engine, which isn't always gonna, you know, come out the way we want it to. Then we have our 2-cost toy Hero Musashi. When destroyed by your opponent, reveal the top card of your deck. If it has the same cost as any of your spirits, add it to your hand. So this one's interesting because, like, it's a 2-cost. So obviously in 2 costs the deck, this seems like an auto include because it's going to, you know, draw you a card, ramp you a core off Blessed Cathedral. It's also going to replace itself. But then it's also good in Otherworlder or Otherlander, excuse me, because it's a 2-cost and we're probably going to be playing some 2-costs anyways. When it's destroyed, it's going to reveal a top card of our deck. We're already going to be playing like a curve that's, you know, 2 through 5 probably, or 2 through 6. So it fits in there anyways, and it's just a great way to get more value. Now, again, I do think this is going to fall more under the 2-cost aggro style of deck, but I do see some applications for this card in other areas. Moving on to our Nexus, we have the ticking Floral Clock, 4-cost 2 reduction. During either attack step, all your level 1 spirits gain 1,000 BP. Ultimately, probably not good enough. Our level 1 spirits have to remain that way because of the Rafael Birdfolk, right, to get the most value out of it. But I think at that point, them gaining 1,000 BP is not really going to matter. This is cool for tokens, right? If we want to try to like build up the token strategy since they are just level 1 and stuck at level 1. But I mean, ultimately, I think that's kind of whatever, you know, in terms of then let's just mix up some colors and see where it goes. But for standalone yellow, I don't think that's what you want. And then the flash, you may destroy this Nexus to select one of your opponent's spirits, treat it as level 1 during this turn. Now, this I do love. I think that is a really cool battle trick that you can just leave on board for early reductions for when you want to play it. And then treating something as level 1, right? Now we're getting to say that our, you know, Dual Eagle or God Beast can swing through, right? So there are like really weird cases that like that is a very, very strong Nexus effect. And yes, it is during your opponent's attack steps, so it wants to be more defensive in nature, but then they can't like ramp up the cores either. So it's weird, right? Because it wants to be offensive, but you have to use it defensively first. And I'm not sure how much that's going to matter, right? It might give us the block, but generally I imagine the way they're going to use this is like let them attack with their big thing and then pop something lower. I really wish this was offensive. I get it would be too strong if it was, and you probably have enough control over combat to where during your opponent's attack step is fine. But again, either way, level 1 is reducing something to level 1 is an insanely strong effect. And I would not be surprised if this sees play eventually. I'm just not exactly sure what part of yellow it goes into. But again, the flash is insanely, insanely strong. Moving on from there, we have the Secret Flower Garden. When one of your yellow Nexus is destroyed by your opponent's effect, place a core from the void into your life. Like, this is supposed to be for red. Like, that just feels bad. You know, they're going to kill your stuff anyways, time and time again. I'm not sure getting a single life is going to be worth it. So that's kind of like, I wish the level 1 was a little bit better. But then during your attack step, all of your spirits with Blessed or Luster gain 1,000 BP. So I do like this one because it's only 1 core, which is really important. And Blessed and Luster are exactly the 2 words that we want that are going to, you know, need to get bigger as the game goes on. So getting these in multiple stacks and having your Blessed gain, you know, 2,000, 3,000 BP can be extremely relevant. Same with Luster. So now this also helps out our early Luster package, right? So again, really curious to see where this ends up. I really like the effect. It's very, very cheap for what it wants to be doing. Flying Arc, of course, being a little bit bigger, but that's just for Bless. So I do like this Nexus. I do think it's going to find a home somewhere. And I think I'm happy for this set because it's finally going to split up Paradise, and Blessed Cathedral. So I think we are back to Blessed Cathedral being the overall best, and we're going to see that as the auto include for a lot of yellow style of decks. But now we're starting to see more support come online for the other strategies, which is really great to see. And then moving on from there, we have Harpy Ness for a 4-cost 2 reduction. During your attack step, when one of your Birdfolk spirits is blocked, treat that blocking spirit as level 1 during this turn. Fine, it's for Rafael. Obviously, it's very, very good for that reason. You probably have to play this as the other Nexus in 2 costs, as much as it pains me to say, because you just have to protect that unit. And this does everything that you want to do. But then also, the level 2 is insane. So during your opponent's turn, when a core is placed into your reserve, you may exhaust this Nexus to select up to 2 of your spirits, place any number of cores onto them from your reserve. So this shuts off the Dark Bishop Cursed Dragon combo only on your 2 most important spirits. But if you can protect your 2 most important spirits with this card, you know, that's fine. And then, of course, you can also activate this if you have multiple of them to save multiple things. So if purple is really going to be that much of an issue in set 2, I think like you're happy to run this anyway. So full out, like my guess for yellow and kind of like going forward is going to be Blessed Cathedral and Harpy Ness Palace, just because of the level 2 effect. Maybe it ends up being in the sideboard for your non-2-cost aggro decks, but I think it is just an absolutely insane Nexus that's going to be so relevant in set 2 that a lot of people are going to be happy to even sideboard it. And again, I'm really bummed that the Birdfolk is like literally 1 card, and I guess the 2-drop, you know, if you're running it in that list as well, depending on what the 4-cost and higher support looks like. But this is a card that will likely get a lot more support in set 3 when more Birdfolk enter, and we want to have more of that anti-blue style of deck. Moving on from there, and speaking of anti-blue stuff, so the 3 cards, 5 cost, 3 reduction. When your opponent resolves a when summon during this turn, all your spirits gain Otherlander spirit type. So again, if we have the King Charles, that kind of doesn't matter. But what's really important here is if you have 3 or more Otherlander spirits. So again, it's a way to the flash is a way to enable this if you do it the other way. All of your opponent's nexuses lose their effects and cannot regain them during this turn. This is a house against blue. And there is other stuff like shutting off depths potentially, right? There are other plays for this in set 2, but this is a card that's absolutely going to shine in set 3, and I'm very, very excited to see where this goes, and I'll probably try to pick up the SPRs for cheap. So very excited for this card and think it's going to be super important in set 3 and something that, you know, maybe not as important for set 2, but we'll see where it lands. Up next, we have Somersault, 6 cost, 3 reduction. Main, your yellow spirits cannot be blocked by your opponent's level 2 spirits during this turn. So this one's interesting because it's like we have God Beast, you know, which is going to turn off the lower ends. Then we have Somersault, which is turning off another level. We also have like the Fallen Angel, which is just going to turn all of them to level 1. Like there's so much level manipulation that's in this set. I think it's going to be like a real big headache to play against yellow in set 2, but I'm really looking forward to it because I'm curious to see which way that this is going to end up. And Somersault is one of those cards that it's going to be either insane because your opponent has to play around a couple different things, or it's just going to be like the worst card ever, right? But I like this idea that we can set up some boards where it's like Phantom Beast King Lin plus Somersault to where now our entire board is unblockable. Or if they try to leave something back that has, you know, armor yellow, but then it was at level 2, now Somersault is helping us surpass it. So there's like this weird meta shift where this can line up to be quite good, but I think I'm going to end up relying on just like, you know, Phantom Beast King, then the Nexus, then this card in terms of like where does, or I guess Joker's number 1, right? You know, where does this unblockable yellow come into play? And I think we're just going to be all in on the Joker plan. So, you know, early on, but Somersault could definitely be that card that surprises some people out of the sideboard. And then Magic Mirror, man, this one just breaks my heart. So 4 costs, 2 reduction. The next time your opponent would select a Spirit or Nexus while using a Magic card during this turn, you select it instead. So it's like meant to be a protection, but like I also never just want to run this Magic anyways because it doesn't work the way that we want it to be working. So it's just better to have protection with like an Enterprise or something and like save our Magic slots for things that matter, like Angelic Pressure, Dream Bombs, you know, Exhaust Nexus. Like this just doesn't do what we wanted to do in those matchups. So this one does feel a little bit of a bummer. We didn't get Cat's Eye, which was the card that I wanted. So it is what it is, but you know, not every Magic can be a home run. And the one I do like is Lightning Arrow. 4 cost 2 reduction, select one of your opponent's spirits. It cannot attack or block during this turn. So this is really cool because, again, now we're getting into more of that like control style. Like I get to decide what you attack or block with. And obviously things like Axe Spider are going to have armor yellow, which is still a bummer. But this can be a way to guarantee that our other units are kind of getting through when we need them to get through, or just turning off one of your opponent's important, on attack effects. If they have 2 things that they need to attack with, right, and they're trying to get like the most value, like Nemesis. With Nemesis, you want to attack with your smaller spirit first, and then we can Lightning Arrow the Nemesis to deny them that value for the turn. Obviously, there's way better plays out there that we would care about, and we probably want to end up using this for the blocking side of it anyways, especially if they're like a go tall style of deck where they're all in on 1 or 2 spirits. But we will see where Lightning Arrow ultimately ends up. But again, I love the Birdfolk in it. I wish there's more Birdfolk, in this set, but definitely a set 3 thing. So again, very curious. I think it's going to be a very strong card, just not 100% sure where it lands up. So what is your favorite yellow card from set 2? For me, I got to give a shout out to Arcana King Charles. Like, I think this card is just going to be super fun to build around with, to play with. I think getting the value off of Joker is going to be super fun. And I think it will be, if we're thinking about these like go wide style of decks where we have 2-drop versus Otherlander, I'm very, very excited for Otherlander and think it will ultimately end up being the better deck between the two. And it's also just a really fun theme to play with. So one more set review to go. We have green, and then I will be going, I guess I'll just say it here at the end for those that made it to the end. I will be going to the, or helping out, I should say, with the Battle Spirits Saga Road Tour. So all this weekend, I'll be going around in Michigan to demo the game to 9, or I think 10 stores now, and just spread the word of Battle Spirits Saga. I'm super excited for that, and I will also be casting the Pro Tour, so please look forward to that. I'm very excited. I was lucky enough to be invited and get to go cast the Pro Tour as well. So that will be a great celebration. And, the first Pro Tour is always going to be super, super exciting. So with that, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.